Hey guys, welcome to another episode in the epilogue part of my deep playthrough of AC Unity. Just before I will continue in a separate playlist with the Dead Kings DLC, I am reading through the database because I'd say that that is part of the playthrough as well, the lore, the little historical tidbits and backstories. So I am reading through it now. Let's continue. We are in the people section still. This one we read in the previous episodes, and that was the son of Louis XVI. And here we go. Denis Molinier, an alchemist from Montauban. Molinier was deeply interested in flamel and produced the famous flamel images, consisting of obscure figures that combine symbolic and chemical formulations. Alright. And Flamel, I think, himself was a chemist. 1 second, just double checking. I think he also has his own entry in here. But let's see what Wikipedia pops up. A French scribe and manuscript seller. After his death, Flamel developed a reputation as an alchemist believed to have discovered the Philosopher's Stone and to have thereby achieved immortality. He was way earlier, he was in the 14th century. These legendary accounts first appeared in the 17th century. Alright, and that Philosopher's Stone. Yeah, I know about it. It's a bit Indiana Jones-like, but I think that's a mythic alchemical substance capable of turning base metals such as mercury into gold or silver. It is also called the elixir of life, useful for rejuvenation and for achieving immortality. For many centuries it was the most sought goal in alchemy. The Philosopher's Stone was the central symbol of the mythical terminology of alchemy, symbolizing perfection at its finest, enlightenment and heavenly bliss. Efforts to discover the Philosopher's Stone were known as the magnum opus. Alright, I would like to know where the name comes from. 1 second. Etymology. From the Greek Chrysopoeia. Why is it called the Philosopher's Stone? It was changed by the American publisher Scholastic because it thought American children wouldn't want to read a book with philosopher in the title. Alright, that's about the Harry Potter thing. An imaginary stone, substance or chemical preparation believed to have the power of transmuting baser metals into gold and sold by alchemists. Broadly, an elusive or imaginary key to success. Yeah. I still have no clue why it's called the Philosopher's Stone. In Western culture, an Egyptian-born Greek alchemist Zosimos of Panopolis, 300 AD, first described the stone in his Cometa. He contended that the women of Earth were taught metallurgy and the fabrication of the stone when taken as wives by the fallen angels of heaven. Oh man, it's so annoying. It's something. It's not really like a logical name, I would say. For the why is it linked to a philosopher? What philosopher? What does philosophy has to do with alchemy? I have no idea. And you cannot find an obvious question like that. Where did the name Philosopher's Stone come from? Written in Latin, its title translates to preparation of the Sophie Mercury for the Philosopher's Stone, but sorry, I was just... Alright, I will just leave it, but very annoying that something this obvious, I cannot be the only one asking that question. Why is it called... There's no link to philosophy with eternal life and making base metals into gold and silver, which apparently are the attributes of this stone. Like a stone itself, I see a link with alchemy. I mean, it contains molecules and it could have a reaction or whatever, some kind of a magical composition. But philosophers? What philosopher? Whatever. Nah, no, I'm going to one more time. I'm gonna look it up. My God, I hate stuff like this. Really, I hate it. The earliest known written mention of the Philosopher's Stone is, this is what we just read. Alchemical writers assign a longer history. That it goes back to Adam, who acquired the knowledge of the stone directly from God. Then, this is, by the way, old-timey bull crap, so to say. It was in the time that silver and gold were probably seen as super special compared to nowadays, when Bitcoin is vastly exceeding it in all its unique properties that gold has. Bitcoin does better. So it is just like a lot of religious stories. It's just made up bullcrap. But still, and I will stop searching now. But why? What's the link to philosophy? It's an alchemy stuff, or even the link to religion, because it has some religious eternal life rejuvenation properties apparently as well assigned to it. What the hell does that have to do with philosophy? I have no idea. Was there one famous philosopher that was somehow related to that stone? I have no idea. And if so, what philosopher? I cannot imagine that articles like Wikipedia do not at the start address something that obvious straight away. But alright, I'm really getting sidetracked from a really short bio description over here, but just stupid. Dr. Joseph Ignace Guillotin. Dr. Guillotin was a leading light in French medicine who did not in fact invent the guillotine. He earned immense popularity, I would say, among Parisians for his early support of a vote by head count at the Estates General. In addition, he was a philanthropist who petitioned for the same death sentence for all regardless of social class. Along with Dr. Antoine Louis, he sought to improve a machine first devised by harpsichord maker Tobias Smith, which would lock the victim's head off painlessly. No more swords, no more breaking wheels, no more gallows. Quick death guaranteed, even at the hands of clumsy executioners. He fell foul of the Committee of Public Safety late in the revolution and spent a month in prison, but escaped a final reunion with his invention. He resumed his scientific activities and worked in support of vaccination to save lives. Alright, what the hell is a harpsichord? Is that like just a harp? A harpsichord is a musical instrument played by means of a keyboard. Alright, I think it's like a piano version of a harp, I guess. I'm not even sure whether harp is a thing in English. 1 second. We do like so. No. We do like so. Yes, it is a word. Alright, Désirée Clary. The daughter of a wealthy merchant from the south of France, Désirée crossed destinies with two extraordinary military men of the period. Initially engaged to Joseph Bonaparte, she was introduced to his brother Napoleon. What sort of negotiation ensued is lost to history, but somehow Désirée's older sister married Joseph, and Désirée herself became engaged to Napoleon. The marriage was not to come to fruition. Napoleon became infatuated with the extraordinary Josephine de Beauhamais, and Désirée met and later married the dashing officer Jean Bernadotte. A few years later, her husband, via an unusual adoptive relationship, was more or less appointed to be king of Sweden, and Désirée became queen. If you handed this in as the plot of a soap opera, they'd laugh you out of the building. Except the bit about being appointed king of Sweden, they'd love that. Eugene Francois Vidocq, born in 1775, Vidocq was but a lad during the French Revolution. He spent his youth as a petty thief and was frequently in jail. However, his association with thieves was to prove beneficial. By the Napoleonic era, he was working as an informant for the police and eventually became a policeman himself. They usually say crime doesn't pay. For this fellow, it not only paid but came with a pension and medical. In fact, he was one of the forefathers of the deductive method of crime solving and founded a unit that grew to become the Sûreté, France's premier crime-fighting organization. He always worked both sides of the law, but his criminal friends proved invaluable to him as a detective. Fabre d'Églantine, one of the worst poets of his generation, which produced many. The young Fabre won the Lis d'Argent, Silver Lily, second prize in the poetry competition, but took the name Églantine from the name of the first prize, Églantine d'Or, Golden Wild Rose. Alright, I'm starting over. I think I went a bit too fast through it. Don't even know what I've actually read. One of the worst poets of his generation, which produced many. The young Fabre won the Lis d'Argent, the Silver Lily, second prize, Silver Lily, second prize in a poetry competition, but took the name Églantine from the name of the first prize, Églantine d'Or, Golden Wild Rose, which he claimed to have received. And so this traveling troubadour became known as Fabre d'Églantine, described as a lazy, unstable, handsome hunk by French historian Jean Tullard. It was only thanks to the revolution that he went down in history. He was saved from prison for death by a letter of remission from Louis XVI. As a token of his gratitude, he joined the riots and became involved in shady dealings with Danton and Marat while writing popular plays. Alright, what the hell is remission? Letter of remission. Is it like a letter of pardon or something? A letter of remission was formerly a missive produced by the royal chancery in which the king notified the royal criminal court that he was familiar with the facts in the supplicant's case as recited in the document and informed the court that the king intended to impart his grace and mercy. Remission and pardon. Yes, it's a pardon. To support his lavish lifestyle, he offered his services to the court. 3 million to create a monarchist movement within the Jacobin camp. Danton, Minister of Justice, hired him as secretary. Robespierre blamed him for fiddling with army supplies. He made a huge profit on an advance order of thousands of pairs of boots for the army soldiers, which were never delivered. Along the way, the poet played the role of villain in the September massacres and came up with the names of the months for the revolutionary calendar. One second. Sorry, I'm just searching a bit. As a result of his involvement in the fraudulent affairs of the French East India Company, Robespierre targeted him as a means to eventually get to Danton. Guillotined on April the 6th, 1794, Robespierre the Incorruptible described him thus: talented but with no soul, skilled in the art of depicting men, even more skillful in deceiving them. All that remains of his life's work is the well-known song Il pleut, bergère. It rains, shepherdess. Alright. Jacques Necker, I already read it, but I will read it again. Swiss-born banker, financier and politician, Jacques Necker was an advocate of the ideas of the Enlightenment. Louis XVI appointed him Director General of the Treasury, then of Finance in 1776. It was Necker who suggested that the king use loans in order to finance the support that France intended to offer to the American insurgents during the War of Independence. When France's debt grew too large, he was forced to resign. Called back in 1788 to remedy the situation, Necker was seen by the populace as a voice of reason. He advised the king to summon the Estates General. When that didn't work, well for the king, Necker was again dismissed on July the 11th, 1789, sparking an uprising at the Palais Royal under the instigation of Camille Desmoulins, and indirectly the attack on the Bastille 3 months later. 3 days later. Necker was recalled one last time before resigning on September the 3rd, 1790. He then retired to Switzerland to concentrate on writing works about finance and economy. Jacques-Louis David, a highly influential painter in the neoclassical style, David was an active supporter of the revolution and a good friend of Maximilien Robespierre. His painting The Death of Marat in 1793 immortalized Marat at the time as a Jacobin martyr. Jean Bernadotte, the poor man's Bonaparte. Bernadotte started out as a stable boy nicknamed Fanfan Belgian. He enrolled in the Revolutionary Army as a private age 17. He quickly rose up the ranks, becoming Brigadier General, and just 6 months after that, General of Division. Of notes, I don't understand. Becoming Brigadier General, is that General of a brigade? And if so, why is it Brigadier General and General of Division? Why isn't it Brigadier General and Division General? Or the other way around, General of a brigade and General of Division. It's not really a uniform way of formulating these titles, so to say. But maybe I'm overlooking something. I don't know what Brigadier General exactly entails, but apparently it is lower than General of Division, which I would just call Divisional General. Anyways, of note is his marriage to Désirée Clary, a former sweetheart of Napoleon Bonaparte, whom Bernadotte served under at the thunderous success at Austerlitz. However, his revolutionary principles were jettisoned in the wake of an extraordinary turn of events. Oh shit. Having been adopted by the ailing Charles the 13th of Sweden, he was called on to become Crown Prince and eventually Charles the 14th, King of Sweden and Norway. Alright, there's one thing I want to check, and that is jettison. I know it is something like expulse or a quick, sudden, explosive movement. But I would like to have a more exact meaning. Throw or drop something from an aircraft or ship. Yeah, and what the hell is the origin of that? From the Anglo-French noun jettison, meaning action of throwing. Ultimately from the Latin verb jactare, meaning to throw. One moment. Alright, just quickly was reading up on this, its origin. It exists as a noun since the 15th century and means the voluntary throwing overboard of cargo on a ship, probably in heavy weather or something, heavy weather or storms or something. Yes. Alright, let's quickly make some progress. Jean-Gilbert, the gendarme who ruined Marie-Antoinette's escape from the conciergerie. The queen had pin-picked a message into a piece of paper in reply to a secret message hidden in the petals of a carnation. This was an early form of DMing someone. The plan, known as the complot d'Huillet, dictated that Gilbert take this message to the queen's allies on the outside in return for 400 louis, a tidy sum equivalent to 3 years' pay. Can you imagine that apparently the currency was named Louis? Can you imagine as a person, like, it's pretty sneaky, naming the means of exchange that everybody is dependent on, the currency, to yourself. That like unconsciously makes it you probably in the minds of people more important than you actually are, because people have an association like with the currency that their life depends on. So it's really propaganda, manipulation to name a currency to yourself. It's gross, disgusting. Anyways, many of the Queen's captors felt compassion for her. Some even brought her flowers. This would greatly annoy Fouquier Tinville, the public prosecutor. Bringing her flowers was a terrible idea. She probably had to check every bloody leaf in case there was a message on one. It was an enormous waste of her time. Oh, so lame, these footnotes. Gilbert had second thoughts at the last minute. If the plan failed, it was the guillotine for him too. He spoke up, revealing the escape attempt and ending the Queen's last desperate hope of survival. What a traitor. Jean-Baptiste Rotondo, an Italian swindler and double dealer who served numerous masters. Supposedly a professor of Latin, indisputably a dealer in stolen jewelry. He was a regular at the Palais Royal, where he met with the Duke of Orleans up to 10 times a day. One can only assume that it was not to teach the Duke Latin. At one point, Rotondo was accused of attempting to assassinate Lafayette, with whom he had an ongoing feud. A regular at almost every political club, Rotondo was in close contact with the radical leaders of the day. He was in and out of prison for a variety of offences. At one point it was rumored that it was he who had murdered the Queen's confidant, the Princess of Lamballe, a rumor that Rotondo made no attempt to dispel. Alright, who was Lafayette again? I think there's a square Lafayette, but... Marquis de Lafayette. A French aristocrat and military officer who fought in the American Revolutionary War, commanding American troops in several battles including Yorktown. After returning to France, he was a key figure in the French Revolution of 1789 and the July Revolution of 1830. He has been considered a national hero in both countries. Alright, but... what side was he on? He helped to write the Declaration of Rights of Man and of Citizen, so that's good, with Thomas Jefferson's assistance. He was, after the storming of the Bastille, appointed Commander-in-Chief of French National Guards and tried to steer a middle course through the years of revolution. In August 1792, radical factions ordered his arrest and he fled into the Austrian Netherlands. He was captured by Austrian troops and spent more than 5 years in prison. Alright, he survived and yeah, he sounds like my kind of guy. Unless he indeed killed the Queen's confidant, Princess of Lamballe. That would be bad. Jean-Dominique Cassini. We already finished this one? Yes. An astronomer from a family of scientific men, Cassini was born at the Paris Observatory on June 30th, 1748. In 1770 he entered the Royal Academy of Sciences and would gradually take his father's place at the Paris Observatory. During the Revolution, Cassini was commissioned to rethink the system of measurement. He thus set about devising the metric system. Cassini also participated in the plot of a general map of France. In the plotting of a general map of France. His aristocratic background brought him into conflict with the National Assembly, who began opposing his plans for the observatory. He eventually resigned and was subsequently imprisoned. Released 7 months later, he withdrew to his provincial Chateau de Thury. I will do the same, Mr. Cassini. Jean-François Champollion was a student of Oriental languages, particularly Arabic and Persian, at the prestigious Collège de France. He showed extraordinary linguistic talent and began to learn Coptic. A proficient scholar, he was appointed professor of history at the University of Grenoble, aged only 18. Professor at 18, that's crazy. Champollion was fortunate in obtaining a copy of the transcripts of the Rosetta Stone and put forward the idea that the stone's hieroglyphs consisted of both ideograms, which express IDs, and phonograms, which express sounds. He eventually deciphered the hieroglyphs, which led him to reveal an unknown chapter of Egyptian history. Yeah, that's interesting. Earlier we were talking about the Philosopher's Stone, and I mixed it up with the Rosetta Stone, because I think I started my reading on Wikipedia on the Philosopher's Stone with mentioning that I thought it had some translation or ancient hieroglyphs on it, or either I was thinking that only, I think so, or I actually spoke it out in the commentary, I don't remember, but I was mixing them up. Anyways, this Rosetta Stone, that is indeed some kind of a okay, I will look it up. I wanted to say it from head to be quicker instead of now looking it up again, but looking it up will be more accurate. Jesus Christ, all kinds of commercial hits first. Grandier writes steel inscribed with 3 versions of a decree issued in Memphis, Egypt in 196 BC during the Ptolemaic dynasty on behalf of King Ptolemy V Epiphanes. The decree has only minor differences between the 3 versions. The top and middle text are in ancient Egyptian using hieroglyphic and demotic scripts respectively, while the bottom is in ancient Greek. The decree has only minor differences between the versions, making the Rosetta Stone key to deciphering the Egyptian scripts. Yeah, that's amazing. So that is indeed what I remembered approximately. That it's was key to expanding the knowledge of ancient Egyptic communication or writing. Jean-Henri Meesters de Latude was thrown into prison by Louis XV's mistress, Madame de Pompadour, albeit for good reason. Indeed, acting out of greed and ambition, he had invented a false conspiracy against her. He secretly sent her a vial of poison, followed by a letter warning her about the poison. Imprisoned in Vincennes, he was captured and locked up in the Bastille. He escaped again, using a makeshift rope ladder. Again captured and again sentenced to Vincennes, he escaped one last time. In 1787 he published his memoirs in which he recounted his various escapes from prison, including that of 1755 when he broke out of La Bastille. Through the chimney using the aforementioned rope ladder. When the Bastille was taken, he recovered the ladder and offered it with great pomp to the Hôtel de Ville. During the revolution he seized every opportunity to present himself as a tormented victim of tyranny. The storied rope ladder can be found today in the Carnavalet Museum in Paris. I like those little real life things in between, and this guy probably also was real life. Let's check that. But also real life little tidbits related to present day, like where this rope ladder is now. Latitudes. He was a French writer famous for his lengthy confinement in the Bastille at Vincennes and for his repeated escapes from those prisons. Yes, he for sure was real. Jean-Paul Marat. Marat was a man of many talents, physician, politician, and most notably radical journalist. His newspaper L'Ami du Peuple, Friend of the People. By the way, did I finish this one? Yes. Brought him a great deal of notoriety during the French Revolution as an influential supporter of the Sans-Culottes and the radical Jacobin group. Following his role in the purge of the Girondists, there were some who felt his radical views would descend France into civil war. His notoriety would lead to his assassination on the 13th of July 1793. This was immortalized in a painting by Jacques Louis-Charles that shows Marat stabbed to death in a medicinal bath. Marat had struggled with a debilitating skin condition his entire life and would often conduct his affairs while soaking in a bathtub. And this Jacques Louis-Charles we also had over here, I think. Yes, here. Joachim Murat, the son of innkeeper Joachim Murat, was initially destined for an ecclesiastical position, but decided to go against his father's. I searched this term. I think it's like a religious direction, ecclesiastical, like becoming a priest or something. But decided to go against his father's wishes by enlisting in the army. He became a trusted lieutenant of the young Napoleon and played a significant role in procuring the cannons Bonaparte required for quelling the royalist revolt of Vendémiaire. I think Vendémiaire may not be, either it's a location, but it could well be that weird, a month in that weird revolutionary calendar that they implemented. Yeah, the first month in the French Republican calendar. Crazy. And that calendar also started in August or something, or September, and then till August the next year, instead of January, December. Subsequently, Murat was Napoleon's aide-de-camp. Before becoming a general. In 1800, he married Napoleon's sister Caroline. Under the Empire, he was appointed Marshal of the Empire. When the Emperor had conquered much of Europe, he was named King of Naples. Thereafter, his relations with the Emperor became increasingly strained. He was defeated by the Austrians on May 2, 1815, and was later captured and executed on October 13, 1815. Alright, again, somebody who first was in a good relationship and then it soured and intrigues followed and everything follows by death. Almost every biography here of the key figures go like that. They are experiencing periods of prosperity and power, but eventually a hard downfall follows. Alright, Joseph Barra, born on July 30th, 1779. Joseph Barra was the son of a gamekeeper. His two brothers had been sent to the borders to fight the Prussians, while Joseph, too young to join the army, was sent to the Vendée as drummer boy. He died in an ambush near Jalais. It was probably a simple horse theft gone awry. Nevertheless, a legend grew that counter-revolutionaries had tried to force him to declare "Long live the king," to which he retorted, "Long live the Republic," for which he was killed. The image of the falling boy was seized upon by Robespierre himself, proclaiming, "Only the French have 13-year-old heroes." Barras was interred in the Pantheon as a hero of the Revolution. In December 1793, painter Jacques Louis-Charles completed his work entitled The Death of Joseph Barra. If it was indeed a regular mugging gone wrong, then this is another example of manipulation, propaganda, making heroes out of... I'm nothing bad, it's tragic that a 13-year-old boy got killed, but it is just not conform reality to then start painting him as somebody, the biggest hero of the whole republic. If what they ascribed to him simply did not happen. And that is the problem with autocratic and dictatorial regimes like that Reign of Terror. They just make stuff up, just only for the benefit of consolidating their power. Because they know if they don't have like fake enemies or fake heroes, they do not have that much to offer. Because their logic is flawed. They don't think through the consequences of their policies. Anyone who does would see that these a reign of terror is unsustainable in the long term. So then they deflect by making like a little 13-year-old boy a hero. And maybe it was true what the Marat guy did. So indeed protesting anti-revolutionaries, and then all the better. But I doubt it, to be honest. Or at least I would not be surprised one bit if Robespierre and stuff made it bigger than it actually was for their own political and personal benefit. Alright, Joseph Fouillon de Douillet, considered clever but harsh, this staunchly conservative intendant of finances would be one of the first victims of a populace venting fury over lack of food and high taxes. Just before the fall of the Bastille, he had the misfortune of replacing Jacques Necker, who was lauded as the savior of France by the starving masses who knew only that under Necker taxes were lower. In the popular imagination, Foulon, along with his son-in-law Berthier de Sauvigny, bore some responsibility for the food shortages that plagued the nation throughout the period. By legend, he had said during an early famine, "If they're so hungry, they can graze on hay." Fouillon met an unpleasant end. Taken from his refuge in the countryside, he was marched barefoot to Paris, whipped with nettles, made to carry a bundle of hay, and given only peppered vinegar to drink. This is the most bizarre, torture combination I've read ever. Only peppered vinegar to drink. It really is, and also carrying hay in the sun in France, which really irritates or even penetrates or injures your back, probably without a shirt on or anything. It's indeed. It sounds like not that bad. Barefoot walking, a bit of nettle whipping. Carrying some hay, getting vinegar to drink. But if you add those all up, I think it really was torturous. And then it didn't end for him, because after several attempted hangings, he was beheaded and his head paraded in the streets on the end of a pike. So even his hanging was torturous. Several attempts, unsuccessful. Josephine de Beauhamais, born in Martinique, Marie-Joseph Rose Taché de la Pagerie, came to France and married Alexandre de Beauharnais in 1779. Her husband, a member of the nobility, fell to the revolution and was executed. Subsequently, she became a popular guest at many society party, eventually catching the eye of an on-the-rise Napoleon Bonaparte, who was in the market for a wife. Josephine, a few years older than Bonaparte, was considerably more sophisticated than he. She initially married him to ensure financial security, and their initial years were marked by infidelity and considerable time apart while he was off at war in Italy and Egypt. However, the passion grew, and years later After Napoleon had divorced her and remarried in search of an heir, he insisted that she retain the title of Empress. Josephine retired to the Château de Malmaison, where she died in 1814. Alright, I'm already over the 40-minute marker. We'll end the episode here and we'll continue in the next one. Let's see how far we still have to go. God damn it. Alright, but this is really one of the longest categories. Alright, hope you enjoyed, or hope to see you in the next one. For the meantime, do not forget always to keep on gaming. See you later.